Thank you, Jen. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that you are staying cool on this ridiculously hot day, or at least it was over here. We want to talk, as Jen said, my name is Allison DePurdy. I go by Allie. I'm a research associate and field biologist with Atlantic Marine Conservation Society. I've been with the society since 2017 and have been in the marine mammal and sea turtle research and response field for about 15 years now. So hopefully we can share a little bit of knowledge about our marine life and how you can get involved. Jen, are you recording?
Yes, I am.
Excellent. So let's make sure. There you go. Apologize, my screen was not advancing. So we couldn't do all of the work that we do without support from partners and sponsors, and these education programs are no different. So we wanted to thank especially the Port Jefferson Library for hosting this and getting our message out to their members, but also our partners at Citizens Campaign for the Environment, Long Island Community Foundation, Group for the East End, New York State Parks and Recreation, New York State Parks DEC, New York State DEC, NOAA Fisheries, all kinds of wonderful groups that we get to work with on a daily basis, which really helps us to move our message along. Oh. So today we're going to be learning about an introduction to Atlantic Marine Conservation Society and the work that we do. We want to talk about marine mammals and sea turtles in the New York Bight, marine debris, and how you can help all of the animals that we are going to talk about today. So hopefully that was what you guys thought you were going to be learning through this presentation. So for any of you who don't know, Atlantic Marine Conservation Society is a nonprofit organization, and our mission is to promote marine conservation through action. We do this in a variety of ways. We respond to marine mammals and sea turtles that wash ashore deceased on our beaches, and we work with local students to teach them, like this young lady right here who is looking at a deceased Kemp's Ridley sea turtle. So we work with students, volunteers, community members to find out what is happening to the marine mammals and sea turtles in our environment, in our waters. And when we say New York Bight, we mean the waters south of Long Island and east of New Jersey. So that whole kind of peninsula that makes up the New York Bight. And the reason why this is important is because the New York Bight is becoming very busy with marine mammals and sea turtles recently, and it's also connected to all of the other important ecosystems that the marine mammals and sea turtles use. The Gulf of Maine, which is a popular site for a lot of whales to summer. Down off the coast of Georgia and Florida, and into the Caribbean, which is usually a winter grounds for a lot of whales, and all of the other animals that are migrating through our area. We're all connected, just like the ecosystems and all of the environments, the land, the water, is all connected. So we're working to promote marine conservation through action with our response to marine mammals and sea turtles with wild population studies and public outreach. We work with a lot of local municipalities and state and federal governments to respond to these animals, and we definitely, as I said in the beginning, we couldn't do this alone, so we really appreciate their help. And we also work with the most important group of people that we work with is the public. Just like you guys, you're out on the beach often, and you're going to be seeing all of the changes that are coming up, maybe injured marine mammals or sea turtles or marine debris. And we hope that we can give you some good tips on how to help the environment while you're out there enjoying yourself. So as I mentioned, we see marine mammals and sea turtles, and we work with them in our environment. And we actually work with 4 different species of sea turtles that can be found in New York waters. And the first is the Atlantic green sea turtle. And the loggerhead sea turtle is another that we see often in our waters. The Atlantic green sea turtle is the largest of the hard-shelled sea turtles, growing to be 4 to 5 feet long, and they have this starburst pattern on their shell, which is their kind of characteristic trait or defining feature, really. Uh, Atlantic green sea turtles get to be 400 to 500 pounds, and they grow that large eating primarily vegetation. As they're adults, they're vegetarians, so they eat only the marine vegetation like eelgrass and seagrass and all the seaweeds that grow on the ocean floor. Loggerheads, on the other hand, they're a little bit smaller than Atlantic green sea turtles. They get to be 3 to 4 feet long and about 300 pounds. They are crustacean specialists, so they eat all of the lovely crabs and mollusks, clams, oysters, all that kind of stuff, to get that big. And they are the animal that we've been seeing most often in as strandings in this season so far. The Kemp's Ridley is actually the smallest of the hard-shelled sea turtles that we see here. They have this characteristic kind of grayish shell with the white, very predominant white skin, and this very curved kind of hooked beak. They are an endangered species, so there's not very many left in the world. Their population was having a lot of trouble for a long time. Seems to be on the way up, which is great, but they still need a lot of protection. They eat small schooling fish and also crustaceans like the blue claw crab, rock crabs, and different kinds of clams. The last sea turtle we'll talk about is the leatherback sea turtle, also an endangered species. This is the largest of the sea turtles that you'll see worldwide, really. And they're not a hard-shelled sea turtle. They have this tough, leathery skin that covers their backs and these long ridges that are characteristic for the leatherback. These animals get to be 1,500 pounds or so, about 6 feet long, with just their shell, and they have these huge, very long front flippers, which are pretty dangerous, incidentally. They are jellyfish specialists, so while some might think that this is a giant balloon that this animal is trying to eat, or maybe a really large shopping bag, it's actually jellyfish, colony of jellyfish called the pyrosome jellyfish. We do have over 15 species of cetaceans, or whales, dolphins, and porpoises that you can see throughout New York waters. We have the minke whale. Oh, there you go. Minke whale in the top right, left corner of your screen. These animals are relatively small. As adults, they're 25 feet long or so. They have this characteristic kind of white, almost mitten-like pattern on their skin right here, and they're very, very dark in color. Humpback whales, on the other hand, are usually pretty large. They get to be 40 to 50 feet long, thousands and thousands of pounds, as you can imagine. And they are the characteristic whale that you would see in, what is it, is it a life insurance video, commercial, or one of those commercials where the whale comes out and it's, Pacific Life something, or so that's a humpback whale. They often are seen jumping out of the water very acrobatically and kind of making a big splash as they go down. They have been seen very frequently off of New York shores recently, and they have these very characteristic long flippers that are white on the underside. So interestingly enough, humpback whales can be identified to the individual by a unique pattern on their tail flukes, that that kind of characteristic whale tail that they have. They have different kinds of coloration on the underside of their fluke that is kind of like their fingerprint. So a lot of researchers are tracking these animals through these identifying features, and we at Atlantic Marine Conservation Society work with a consortium of scientists throughout the New York Bight to try and really figure out what's going on with these animals. There's a lot more in our area recently, but there also is an unusual mortality event been declared for humpback whales and also minke whales since 2016 from Maine through Florida, actually. Um, and over 100 humpback whales have been found dead in that time frame from Maine through Florida. Um, I think the number of minke whales is somewhere in the 90s. So, while the populations are doing okay right now, it is concerning that there are so many coming up dead. So we're working with our partners in the stranding region and the government to really try and figure out why these animals are dying and what's happening to them. We also have the harbor porpoise and short-beaked common dolphins are just a few of the smaller species of cetaceans that you can see in New York waters. And common dolphins you often see if you're out in the boats. They often do like to bow ride. We also have bottlenose dolphins, both inshore and offshore species that can be seen in pretty large pods or groups of animals right offshore. The other group of marine mammals that you see in New York waters and around the haul out sites here are seals or pinnipeds, and we have 4 different types that you can see with some regularity. We have the harbor seal here, and these animals are often seen at Moriches Inlet. There's a haul out site where these animals come up on a sandbar to hang out, sun themselves, take a rest, and can be seen in quite large numbers in the wintertime. We also have gray seals, which are becoming more predominant in not only the stranding records, but the sighting records as well. You can see these 2 animals were taken, this photo was taken off of Monomoy Island in Massachusetts during a research project that our executive director and chief scientist Robert DiGiovanni was part of. This was leading actually this winter. And gray seals are very interesting because they are the only pinniped species that you can tell the difference between males and females by the color of their fur. Now, like I said in the beginning, I've been doing this a long time, 15 years or so. And so judging by the coloration of this animal, because he's got pretty much black face, black flippers, and just kind of this mottled pattern of white throughout, I would say this is probably a male seal because they're generally darker base with kind of lighter spots. And this is likely a female seal. Both are young of the year seals. And I can tell this because this female looks very silver, kind of gray colored, and if you could see the rest of her body, she'd probably have some black spotting across her fur. So I think that's pretty interesting. Gray seals get to be 7 to 8 feet long and about 700 pounds when they're adults. Harbor seals, on the other hand, usually about 5 to 6 feet long and maybe 400 to 500 pounds or so. The hooded seal, on the other hand, is the largest of the seals that we could see here. When they're adults, they get to be about 800 pounds. So that's a pretty big seal to encounter. They have this characteristic balloon that can be inflated through their nasal sac or their nose. We think that they use this to warn off other males, kind of show their dominance, and also maybe attract some mates. So that's pretty interesting. We haven't seen too many hooded seals in the stranding records in the last, I would say, 5 or 7 years or so, but they seem to come in waves, and we do have, some animals that, some years that we see plenty of hooded seals, but they're usually here because they're an Arctic species animal. They tend to be in our area from January through about March or April, and then are heading back up north. Harp seals are also an Arctic species animal that we usually see during that January through March or April time frame. This is an adult harp seal, and you can tell this seal by the characteristic kind of black mask on its face and this big black blob that actually is kind of shaped like a harp, which is where they get their name. So Arctic species seals here. Harbor seals and gray seals are considered temperate watered animals, and they spend a lot of their time in and around New York waters. We have been seeing harbor seals showing up at the local haul sites really late October, early November, and then with greater numbers January through probably end of April. But we've also been seeing gray seals during that time frame and even into the summertime at some of our eastern Long Island haul out sites. So there are changes coming and going on with our seal populations, and that's part of our wild population studies that we want to continue to learn how the animals are using our environment, what they're doing while they're here, and how we might be able to help protect them. Any questions so far?
We haven't had any in the chat as of yet.
Okay. So now we've gotten to what we wanted to talk about today, human-induced ocean issues. And the biggest one probably on everybody's mind so far is marine debris. We want to know what is marine debris. I think this is a pretty good depiction here. This artwork was submitted to the annual NOAA National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration's Marine Debris Art Contest. And this is by a person named Kershey, 6th grade from South Carolina. So let's see if we can get this video to play and hear a little bit from our friends at NOAA about marine debris. Oh, and you know what? I might need to... Jen, is there... Well, we'll see if it goes on. Oh, hold on. Sorry about that, folks. I think I need to... Technical difficulties at the moment. I apologize. I don't think it's going to do it. Okay, well, we'll just talk about marine debris without that person. As we can see in this picture, marine debris is all man-made items that are found in the sea, including plastic, beverage bottles, plastic bags, straws, all kinds of good stuff. How do we think marine debris gets into the environment? Well, this shows us there's at least 10 different ways for marine debris to get into the environment. So it includes litter that's dropped in towns and cities. So when you have litter on your streets, what happens? It goes into the sewer grates, and the sewer grates all go out into the water. That happens from overflowing trash bins like this right here. Jen, can you guys see the my arrow now? I should go back to the laser pointer maybe.
Yeah, I think the laser pointer would be good.
How's this? Right here on number 2. Yep. So I'm sure, you know, as we are all at the beach in the summertime, we can see both of these things. People that maybe forget their trash. I like to think the best of people and think that they're not intentionally just leaving their garbage in the environment, and maybe they just forgot it, or it just got away from them. But we've all probably seen recently too the overflowing garbage cans at the beaches, but also all over town. Just because you may not be near a beach or on a beach doesn't mean the debris won't get blown into the sea. So that's a big problem, to make sure that all of the debris is not getting blown in. Number 4 over here is on the corner. Poorly managed industrial waste discharge is a big municipal problem that people can get involved with if you think that's a problem in your town. There's things like microbeads from personal care products are a big source of debris and issues. And, things being dropped off boats, container ships being lost. So there's a lot of ways for marine debris to get into the environment, but there's probably only one way that it'll get out, and that's with us. So why is marine debris a problem? Well, let's think about how our ecosystem works. And we see right here all of these really, really tiny animals. Those are zooplankton or animal plankton, but also maybe some phytoplankton in there, which is plant plankton. So how the ecosystem works is the very, very smallest of our ecosystem is the phytoplankton. They feed the animal plankton. Animal plankton feeds the fish. So if there are small microscopic amounts of plastic and trash in the water that gets into the phytoplankton and the animal plankton, then those items are eaten by bigger fish. Now, these animals each only eat one or two pieces of trash, but if this fish eats all of these animals, all of that, all of the toxins from the garbage that they're eating is building up. Now what happens is, this is a relatively small fish. So this fish eats maybe 5 of these small fish and gets a whole bunch of trash and toxins that it accumulates. And then who's going to eat this big fish? Well, maybe us. So that's kind of how trash will build up in the environment. And as you can see here, some of the trash is also eaten directly by some of the animals larger in the food chain, turtles and birds and all kinds of animals. Any questions so far?
No questions in the chat as of yet.
Okay. So we've seen that you'd think it would be my kids that were interrupting, but no. It was the biggest kid of all in the house. Excuse me. We have seen how the trash kind of accumulates in our ecosystem, but how does it move around? As we can see, there are all of these different currents in the different parts of the ocean, the different parts of the world, and they're moving around cold and warm water, which is helping to also move around all of the nutrients in the water. So there's a lot of very nutrient-rich waters up here in the Arctic that get brought down this way, and all of the water in the North Atlantic. So what else moves on these currents? Well, animals move on these currents. We actually have found, especially on Long Island, I don't know if where everybody is from, but very popular place for people around here to go snorkeling is in Shinnecock Bay, which is in Hampton Bays, New York, and there's the Ponquag Bridge. Well, a lot of people go snorkeling in the summer and also scuba diving under the Ponquag Bridge. And interestingly enough, you can often find tropical fish in Shinnecock Bay. Now, you wouldn't think that you would find tropical fish in New York, right? Because, I mean, people think that tropical fish, they just kind of stay in Florida and in the Caribbean, and that's where they live. Well, this handy dandy Gulf Stream here brings a jet of warm water throughout the Atlantic Ocean, and also carries a lot of tropical species here and kind of helps to move around the nutrients. So unfortunately, that also means that all of these currents do also bring the marine debris. So something that maybe dropped into the ocean over here in Japan could end up on a beach in California at some point. And you can see here, I think that the most popular of the kind of garbage challenges is the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Now, I think the scientists have kind of thought that there are sort of 2 or 3 different garbage patches, this Western garbage patch, Eastern Pacific garbage patch. The one thing that they all have in common is that you can see a ridiculous amount of garbage, of trash, of plastic bags, of all the things that should not be in our oceans. And it's a really, really huge convergence of all of these materials at one time. So just to give you some idea, in 2018, the top 10 items that were collected through the International Coastal Cleanup, which is hosted or led by the Ocean Conservancy. Around here, the American Littoral Society is the New York chapter that helps collect all the information from New York. But worldwide in 2018, cigarette butts, food wrappers, straws, forks, knives, and spoons, and plastic beverage bottles, top 5 items collected worldwide, with more than 5 million cigarette butts collected, which I think is pretty amazing. And if you really think about that, all of those items are made of plastic. And in 2018, enough beverage cans were collected to make full suit of armor for 308 superheroes. Now, I don't know about you, but I think that superheroes, they need a little bit more than beverage cans. But it just goes to show how much debris was collected. But also, in 2017, it became the first year that all of the top 10 most commonly found items were made of plastic, including cigarette butts. So that's a pretty sad trend that followed through to 2018. Now, plastic bags are an interesting topic right now because of everything that's going around worldwide. First of all, in 2018, we collected enough plastic bags to make over 1 million capes for superheroes. Now, plastic bags is a hot topic in New York. A lot of people, so Suffolk County, I think maybe 2 or 3 years ago at least, banned plastic bags and put a 5-cent fee on any non-reusable bags, so paper bags if you get them in the stores. I don't remember if NASA followed close behind, but in March of 2020, just before everything shut down, New York signed into law that all of New York State, no more plastic bags should be used. Now that the COVID 19 pandemic happened, a lot of people are pretty concerned about going to the grocery store in general, but also reusable shopping bags and stuff like that. The challenge is that that's unfortunately kind of turned the tides for a lot of the safety measures and environmental efforts that people have been going, so that there are petitions to reverse the plastic bag bans, and it's just an interesting time. Hopefully we can all agree that as long as we are all sanitizing our reusable bags before and after we go to the grocery store, it's probably safer for the environment and for us, because at least you know where your shopping bags have been. The interesting thing about plastic shopping bags is that everybody views them as safe, but they're not sterile and you don't know who's touched them. So think about that. So I would love to hear from our group about what do you think some of the impacts of marine debris can bring to the environment, to our economy. How do you think that marine debris really affects us in our daily lives?
So you guys, if you have any guesses, you can just type them in the chat. And even if you don't know, just a guess on how you think marine debris might negatively impact something. And there are a bunch of hints up on the slide for you if you want to take a peek before you enter a guess.
So while you guys are guessing, I think some interesting things to note here, and this is a graphic by our partners at NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Worldwide, more than 200 species are impacted by entanglement of marine debris. At least 1/3 of all seabird species has been found with marine debris, and all sea turtle species have been found to have ingested marine debris. So what do we think about these impacts?
So we have a couple different guesses here. The first answer says animals mistake plastic bags for jellyfish, etc.
Yeah. And number one for the leatherback sea turtle, who are jellyfish specialists. That is a big problem.
Absolutely. The next guess says water toxicity.
Yeah, definitely. As the marine debris breaks down, it definitely is leaching chemicals into the environment. So, that is a big problem.
Straws can enter the airways of turtles.
Yes, somebody saw that unfortunate video of the sea turtle that got the straw removed from its nose. That animal was lucky. Some are not so lucky.
Absolutely. All right, those were some great guesses, guys. Thank you.
Absolutely. So as you guys mentioned, ingestion by animals is a big impact from marine debris, entanglement and ghost fishing. Marine life get entangled in marine debris all the time. Stellar sea lions have a big problem with entanglements and packing bands, or those big strapping bands, those big things that you see if you ever get like a really big package and they have those plastic kind of packing bands keeping your package together. I always try to cut those into small pieces if I can, so that they're not in a whole big ring. So entanglement is a big challenge for marine life, and one of the challenges with entanglement that I find most disheartening, I guess, is because it ends up being a chronic condition that will affect the animal for weeks or months or sometimes years. So it's not something that is very quick, and it does prolong their suffering. So that is definitely something that hits me pretty hard. Marine debris, let's say the packing bans, things that fall off container ships, but also fishing gear gets lost, is a big hazard to navigation. When you have, you know, huge debris floating in the ocean, boats can hit that debris and do a lot of damage to their vessels. Things can get wrapped up in your prop. So you know, it's not only affecting animals, it's affecting people, it's affecting the habitats that these animals rely on. And once habitats are disrupted, it kind of disrupts the ecosystem altogether. So it could, you know, it could affect a whole ecosystem, which also means the seafood that people need to eat. Marine debris, unfortunately, helps non-native species enter an area. It transports invasive species to an area, which changes the ecosystem, and that's kind of a whole other discussion that we could have, but it is definitely a big problem. And there's an economic cost to communities to remove the trash, to keeping their beaches clean. You know, nobody is going to want to put any tourism dollars into a place that has ridiculously dirty beaches. So that could be a big economic factor, especially Long Island is a big, a lot of our economy is based on tourism. So this is kind of a good visual of how these animals could be ingesting marine debris. This is a humpback whale, and as you see, this humpback whale has just closed its mouth after coming up from the water, scooping up all of this bunker or menhaden that was in the water, and the whale is going to go down into the water, push all of the water out of its mouth, and keep all of the solid food in its mouth to eat. Now, unfortunately, if there's any plastic included in this water, the animal's going to be eating it directly. If any of these small fish have eaten any plastic, the animal is going to be ingesting that as well. So this is definitely an interesting and kind of disheartening story that we can share with you guys. This is a photo of our executive director and chief scientist, Robert DiGiovanni. And he, in 2017, went on a whale watching survey to try and collect information about the marine life that were in our area. And the trip was not very long. It was definitely near shore. And in the span of about 30 minutes, they were able to recover 7 pounds of floating marine debris, like this balloon. Now, everyone can kind of see this balloon says Happy Father's Day. And unfortunately, it looks pretty well intact, and it still even has some air in it. But we all know that Father's Day is in June, and this survey was conducted in August. So this is a good 6 weeks to 2 months after Father's Day that this balloon was found floating in the water, doing perfectly well, not breaking down very quickly. And it has this long string trailing behind it, which could have entangled any number of birds, fish, mammals, anything like that. So, also seen during that survey, right in that same area where 7 pounds of floating marine debris were found, which 7 pounds doesn't sound like a lot, but the key word there is floating. All of those things were filled with air. So, that's 7 pounds of things that could be filled with air, which doesn't weigh anything, which means probably a lot of debris. But these bottlenose dolphins were also seen on that survey. And as you can see, they're not very far from shore. So they're contending with a lot of challenges, including marine debris in their environment as they're traveling through the area. So we need to we need to we need to work on it. Now, this is another unfortunate situation that we were able to examine this leatherback sea turtle and found this large trash bag, smaller plastic bag piece, and even a food wrapper in the animal's stomach. So this animal washed ashore on a beach in Southampton in 2018, and although, you know, this gives us the nutritional facts about whatever food the person was eating, did not give too much nutrition to this turtle. So while we can't say that this is the cause of the animal's death, it definitely was contributory to its demise. Just to give you a little bit of information about marine mammals and sea turtles, this shows you that marine mammals and sea turtles can be found pretty much on all of Long Island shores. The blue is the cetaceans or whales, dolphins, and porpoise strandings. Red is pinniped, or all the 4 species of seals that we see. And the green is sea turtles. So you do see some distribution of cetaceans pretty much all over. Seals are concentrated on the south shore, but you can see them anywhere. And sea turtles we often see on the north shore and in the wintertime, cold sun sea turtles, and on the south shore in the summertime with a lot of adult animals. And this year we've seen an unfortunate number of vessel strike contributing to animals' deaths. So we wanted to give you sort of a breakdown of how our responses go from 2017 to 2019. We responded to a total of 651 animals, and unfortunately, human-induced issues or human interaction contributed to 102 of those deaths. For sea turtles, we saw human interaction, which includes vessel strikes, entanglements, marine debris ingestion. We saw that in 26% or 65 of the sea turtles that we examined. And we saw that in 4 or 250 or 11 of the 255 pinnipeds or seals, and 18% or 26 of the 148 animals. So who thinks that any of those what do you guys think about that number of human interactions contributing to the deaths? Do you think that's a small number or a large number?
And again, you guys can just type your guesses right into the chat. We have one person said large number. Anybody else? Anyone think it's a small number? Nope. Okay, so we have large number.
16% overall, or 102 of the 651 animals examined. Seems like a large number to me, but what sticks out even more is that these are animals that have encountered some sort of adverse human interaction. And what that means to me is that those are preventable animal deaths. So even if this number was just 1, it's a preventable situation. So how can you help this situation? How can you help? What can you do? One of the things that is really helpful is conducting beach cleanups. Anytime you're walking on the beach, you can collect a lot of different information about what you're finding, but you can collect a lot of different items that are highly ingestible to animals or could otherwise harm them. Does anybody know what this item that is circled on the screen is? I think at this point, if we want to just let everybody unmute themselves, I'm happy to just hear some shout outs.
Yeah, I agree. If you guys want to unmute yourself and just shout out your answers, that's fine. If you're more comfortable typing in the chat, that's also fine.
Those are shotgun shells.
Yes, ma'am. They are shotgun shells. Now, what do we think these things are?
I can't see them close enough. Oh, nice. Tampons, wonderful. Applicators.
You know, that actually, it does look like tampon applicators, but they're not. They're actually the insides of the shotgun. So these are the small plastic pieces that hold all of the shotgun wadding and beads in place. So you have outsides, the insides. And interestingly enough, I've been doing beach cleanups for a long time, and I'm happy to report, especially because we lead these beach cleanups with young children, so kind of a sticky situation, but I have been seeing a lot less feminine hygiene products, even, you know, hypodermic needles and some of those more disgusting parts of human life on the beaches, which is a good thing, I think. But
I always find tampon applicators at Halleck Landing.
really, and is that Halleck State Park, or is there a different?
Halleck State Park.
Okay, interesting. So the other thing we wanted to point out is all of these balloons and balloon strings. So balloons are kind of a double-edged sword. If they don't get eaten, they could entangle something. So they can do damage a lot of different ways, and it's really a challenge to make sure we properly dispose of them. I know at the very least, East Hampton Town has banned the intentional release of balloons, so no longer allowed to have any of those ceremonies where you release balloons. And you know, I am definitely all for however people want to express um, their memories for people and their feelings about losing someone, but harming the environment at the same time seems a little counterproductive. So while you're doing your beach cleanup, Atlantic Marine Conservation Society collects information about the different types of garbage that you find on the beach. So if you're able to, this is a great way to help us to let people know what's going on their beaches. And you can find these data sheets on our website. And all you have to do is start tallying up as you're walking past, as you're collecting things into your bag, what you're finding. So on this particular beach cleanup, we found five paper bags, one plastic bag, 2 plastic beverage bottles. So you can see how to fill in your data sheets for us. And like I said, this really helps us to really let people know. It's a visual representation of the challenges that they're having. So there could be, you know, different types of debris that you find on North Shore beaches versus South Shore beaches. Maybe, you know, Brookhaven beaches have a lot more food wrappers than South Hole beaches. We don't know. That's why we look to collect all this information. And this data collected is actually what helps the all of the legislation that's been coming out about the balloon releases, the ban on balloon releases, the plastic bag bans, the straw bans, all of those really helpful legislation and kind of public movements really need solid evidence behind them to get started. As everyone knows, in these challenging times, we want to make sure that you're going out and enjoying nature, but also maintaining social distancing and work together from a distance to keep our beaches clean. So while we share our beaches with these animals, we want to urge you to take your trash with you and maybe a couple other pieces of debris that you didn't bring with you. We want to remind you to stay 150 feet away from any marine mammal or sea turtle in the water or on the beaches. Not only is that law through the Marine Mammal Protection Act, but it is very helpful for your safety and others. Report any marine mammal and sea turtle sightings to the Atlantic Marine Conservation Society, and you can do that through our website, amcs.org. And also make sure that you report any stranded or sick, injured, or dead marine mammals and sea turtles to the hotline. And that's a 24-hour hotline, 7 days a week, holidays, everything. If you see a sick or injured or dead marine mammal or sea turtle, call 631-369-9829, and you will always get a response. And with that, I want to thank you guys for joining us, and welcome everybody to unmute and let me know if you have any questions, any suggestions for, ways to improve this presentation, or any questions that you have. We would love everyone to join us. We do all of our work supported by our volunteers. So if you're interested in volunteering us, we would love to volunteering with us. We would love to see you. You can always email Jen at volunteers@amcs.org to find out when our next orientation is. You can follow us on Facebook or any of the social media handles, Instagram, Facebook. I think we have Twitter as well. Any questions or comments?
And just to let everyone know as well, if anyone is interested in volunteering, we actually have an orientation scheduled for next Monday evening at 6 o'clock. So right around the same time as this presentation. So if you're interested in that, just shoot me an email at the volunteers email. Does anyone have any questions? And I see Samantha joined us. Thank you so much for having us, Samantha. We really appreciate this. Alrighty, I don't see any questions coming in. So yeah, again, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. We really appreciate you being here. Hopefully you learned something useful. Go out, share some of this knowledge with your friends and family, and we can all work together to help combat the marine debris issue. Please don't hesitate to reach out, either reaching out to us on social media or emailing us if you have any additional questions. And we're going to be doing a lot more of these virtual programs for the rest of the year. So if you're interested in learning more about the animals we work with or some of the other issues that we see with the species that we're working with, check us out on social media because we post all of our events on there as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us, everyone.
Thank you.